Hi, it's Dwyer, gamblersadvisory.com, dwyervip.com. Remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. Well, I've just had one hell of a weekend, right? Not in a good way. I didn't talk about it here online, but I had Jordan Spieth in the Masters, and the weekend got off to a great start. Looked like he was going to be taking a victory lap, and then suddenly things fell apart. I also had, the day after the Pacquiao fight, I had the San Antonio Spurs at home, um, presiding over the longest winning streak at home in a season, to start a season, against a Golden State Warrior team operating on no rest, who had struggled the night before, right? And let's just say that didn't work out. So, to make my weekend consistent, regrettably so, right? In this fight, I thought Timothy Bradley was going to win the fight. I did, right? But I did throw a hedge in. Manny Pacquiao by knockout. Let's just say I'm black and blue all over. I'm more beaten up after this weekend than Timothy Bradley is. Now let's talk about Manny Pacquiao. Let me say this. One of my heroes, a guy I followed, really a hero of my father. A little before my time, but I just like the way the guy carries himself. I just like what the guy's accomplished. Is Bill Russell, the former center of the Boston Celtics. Now Russell, I believe he's a lefty, like Pacquiao, talks about how the great ones are always different, right? The regular rules don't fully apply to them. They're outside the lines, right? There's a right way of doing things, and then there's the way, let's say, a Stan Musial held his bat, right? There's the way, Bill Russell blocked shots before it was popular to do. And there's the way Manny Pacquiao throws punches. Now, I've looked at the 7th round, and that's really an interesting round to me, because Manny Pacquiao looks like the old Manny Pacquiao in that round. And it is bizarre, folks, because Manny Pacquiao, with his right foot forward, in other words, he has his feet inverted, it's not the way it's supposed to be, somehow drops Timothy Bradley throwing a right hook. Looks like his feet are wrong to me, right? I don't get it, right? His feet are wrong. How could he possibly generate any kind of leverage? Plus, Manny's bread and butter is a straight left. He doesn't really have a right hook, right? Here, he throws the same kind of right hook that finishes off Ricky Hatton, and it drops. It's not a slip. It's not a flash knockdown. It drops Timothy Bradley. Well, after I scratched my head on how Pacquiao seemed to have his feet off and gets the knockdown in the 7th round, along comes the 9th round. And in the 9th round, it's true. Pacquiao hurts Bradley moments before the punch that knocks him down. But the punch that knocks him down, his feet are inverted there too. Right? It's a left hand, but he has his left foot forward. In other words, this is not the way a trainer would draw it up. I know Freddie Roach didn't say, hey, Manny, have your feet like this when you throw these punches. Right? Understand, it's so unorthodox that he could be fighting a technician, and the technician would look at his feet and would say, well, I know I'm not going to get hit with the right hook here, then out. Right? So Manny's different. I don't know how else to put it. Right? He's not following the way things are normally done. right? I applaud him. He still has hand speed. There's no question about it. He still has a certain fight style. Aggression, foot movement, foot speed. That really makes him elite. The first round, not a lot of action. But what I want you to do is to just look at how Manny Pacquiao in that first round is always coming forward. Right? He, lets you know, look, you're going to have to abandon the pocket because I'm coming after you. Right? There's a certain, intensity there that I know opponents must feel, and they must look at him and say, gee, what the hell is going on? I thought I was in the ring with a 37-year-old who was contemplating retirement, who told the press this was his last fight, who's coming off of surgery. Right? So, Manny Pacquiao certainly showed me. Right? He has punching power. He obviously has the ability to knock you down even when his feet aren't right. Let me say this too. Everyone in the building knows his bread and butter is that straight left. Somehow he's able to get it off. Somehow it's accurate. Right? I'll give him credit. At times in this fight, he leads with that straight left. Doesn't give Timothy Bradley much time to figure things out. But understand, there is a certain pattern to his game. You actually hear that pattern. In between rounds, when my phone's not ringing, you actually hear that pattern from Teddy Atlas, when Teddy repeatedly says to Timothy Bradley, look, when he starts to move his head, you have to pot shot him. In other words, Teddy has noticed that Pacquiao moves his head a little bit before he lunges in. And of course, when he's lunging in, that right hook is great up close. Doesn't exist from distance. Right? Manny's not really an accomplished body puncher. When he jumps in, a lot of the times it's with that straight left. So if you figure out the pattern, you would know, okay, he's moving his head. I need to get off my punch. Then, as Teddy Atlas put it, I need to go out the side door. Right? In other words, I need to hit and get out of the way. Timothy Bradley was not able to pull it off because Pacquiao was lightning quick with his counters. Because if Bradley threw a punch and missed Pacquiao, Pacquiao could drop a shoulder, get that straight left off, and it'd be accurate. Now let me say this though, because I've read here online people saying, oh, the old Manny Pacquiao is back. Right? This is vintage Manny Pacquiao from, let's say, 6 years ago. There's some differences. I'll agree, Manny Pacquiao today is simply too fast for some of the guys out there. Right? I do believe Manny would be competitive against, let's say, bigger hitters. Let's say Saul Alvarez. But let me say this. Guys like Canelo, guys like Broner, who don't move that well, understand they wouldn't have to against Manny Pacquiao. Because Manny Pacquiao comes and finds you. He's on his front foot. Right? These guys, Broner wouldn't be dealing with Sean Porter moving around the ring, moving target. No, Manny would be the person on his front foot. Let me say this too. Timothy Bradley vacates the pocket. Right? Understand, one of the strengths of, let's say, Adrian Broner is Broner can have you walk into a shoulder. Right? Broner's not going to vacate the pocket. I don't think Canelo, for 12 rounds, vacates the pocket. Right? These guys see a guy hunting them down. They're thinking, great, this is different. Right? Guys are accustomed to moving away from Canelo. Right? Canelo's accustomed to fighting Erislandy Lara and having Lara moving all over the ring, not standing in front of him. You can imagine how happy Canelo would be if Manny Pacquiao shows up and is that close. But let me say this. Pacquiao's straight left, he's mastered the punch, right? I mean, it's a blink now. You see Manny, he goes like this. Suddenly you notice his opponent's head, goes back. Manny lands a nice left in the 9th round, shortly before he takes out Timothy Bradley, and you could tell that left hand could knock down a lot of people. But let's talk about the differences just for a moment between this Manny Pacquiao and prime Pacquiao of 6 years ago. This Manny Pacquiao knocks you down. He doesn't knock you out. Right? He's dominating Chris Algieri. Algieri goes down, but Algieri's always able to get back up. He knocks Timothy Bradley down twice. The second knockdown is a real meaningful knockdown, and Timothy Bradley's able to get off the canvas. By the time you get to the 11th round, Timothy Bradley's all the way back. Right? Guys aren't hurt and staying hurt. Let me say this too. If you look at tapes of younger Manny Pacquiao, you're going to notice that he threw a lot of punches, a lot of flurries, every round for 12 rounds, right? His hands are going. Look at the Joshua Clottey fight. He's bouncing around the ring and his hands are going, right? He's throwing a lot of punches. Well, now Father Time has caught up to him a little bit. He doesn't throw as many punches. His punch volume is down, right? He's not the ever-ready bunny anymore, right? He actually looks like he's pacing himself. He looks like a guy who at times gets tired in the ring. We didn't see this 6 years ago, right? There's a difference between being 30 and 31 and being 37. Let me say this too. Young Pacquiao fought Nacho Beristain's fighter, Juan Manuel Marquez. And Beristain commented about how Pacquiao was like a wild rabbit, right? A jackrabbit, jumping around the ring. How that made him really unpredictable. Well, you know what Father Time does. There's a certain economy of movement now with Manny Pacquiao's movement, right? He's not moving around the ring, jumping from side to side like he once did. Right? Now, don't get me wrong. He turns up the heat. He's stalking you. Right? He's on his front foot. He's coming up to you, trying to find an opening so he could lower his head and just get off that straight left hand. Right? He's stalking you. But that's different than the Manny Pacquiao in the first round of the first Marquez fight, who's jumping around the ring. Don't get me wrong. Even then, he wanted to hit you with a straight left. But he was more energetic. His legs had more spring in them. So, right, let me give Pacquiao's performance 4 stars. Right? Let me give it a 10 out of 10. Excellent performance. Right? But he did look a little older to me. He looks better than he did against Mayweather, but who doesn't look better than they do against Mayweather in other fights? Right? Who doesn't? I would say the 7th round, he turns back the clock. The 7th round looks like vintage Manny Pacquiao. Right? The problem is, even in the 9th round, when he gets the most meaningful knockdown of the fight, Timothy Bradley's having moments in that 9th round before he hits the canvas a second time. Let's just say Manny Pacquiao, the Pacquiao who fought David Diaz, in my opinion, was faster than this Manny Pacquiao, hit harder than this Manny Pacquiao. I understand there's a weight difference there. Okay, fine. But that Pacquiao to me, right, better athlete than this Manny Pacquiao. This Manny Pacquiao, as great as his performance was, right, 10 out of 10. He won the fight. I was looking at it. I thought, my goodness, he looked really good at times. but he's not who he was. Right? The Manny Pacquiao who beats Ricky Hatton, in my opinion, would beat this Manny Pacquiao. He certainly can beat other world-class fighters. Right? His hand speed is such that, wow, some guys are going to be overwhelmed. No question about it. But I am a believer in knowing when to say when. I am someone who looks back on boxing history and admires people like Gene Tunney, right? Admires Lennox Lewis, right? Guys who were on top, walked away from the sport when they understood that as good as they looked to most, they were no longer in their prime. Right? I think Manny Pacquiao is about 5 minutes past midnight right now. Right? He still looks like the old Manny Pacquiao. But when you look closely, you notice he's knocking you down. He's not knocking you out. He's not throwing the same volume. He has to pace himself. Right? He beat Timothy Bradley. He far exceeded my expectations, right? He totally wreaked havoc on my hedge. Absolutely one of the best fighters of this era, no question about it. If I were him, though, I would look at the other men. I'd look at people like Joe Calzaghe. I would look at the adulation that Carl Froch gets when he shows up in public. Right? I would look at how everyone's still talking about Floyd Mayweather. Right? Even though Mayweather hasn't trained for a fight. Right? Since beating Andre Berto. If I'm Manny Pacquiao, even though I think Pacquiao has a chance against Saul Alvarez, yes I do. Right? If I'm Manny Pacquiao, this is a great fight to walk away from the sport on. Right? I looked good. I beat a nemesis. Understand, this was the best opponent Manny could face, legacy-wise. Because his plan A, right, fighting Floyd Mayweather to even the score, couldn't happen because Floyd wasn't interested. His plan B, fighting Marquez to get revenge, couldn't happen because Marquez wasn't interested. So here he had a split on his record, right? He had a situation that he had to remedy. I understand there are other excellent fighters out there. Kell Brook, a bunch of other guys. But they didn't have the history with Manny Pacquiao. Pacquiao understood that in any biography written about him, there'd be a few paragraphs spent on Timothy Bradley. So Pacquiao said, okay, let me take the guy who I have history with who's willing to fight me. And let's decide who wins this series of fights. Right? Pacquiao did it. Right? Some of you think he won all 3 fights. Even folks like me who believe Timothy Bradley won the first fight have to concede that that's the only fight of the 3 Timothy Bradley won. Right? So Manny Pacquiao has literally lifted his game. Right? Put his signature at the end of the Timothy Bradley chapter in the book on Manny Pacquiao. Right? We're all going to have to retire sooner or later. He's 37 years old. At this stage, he needs to realize, look, I look good here. I redeemed myself from the Mayweather loss. If Floyd and Marquez are not going to come back to fight me, now is the time to pass the torch to the next generation. Right? I hope Manny Pacquiao seriously considers quitting. Yes, he looked great in this fight, but it's 5 past midnight now. Right? Prime Pacquiao beats this Pacquiao. He was getting by here on unorthodox punches, right hooks with right feet in front of him, right? A left hook with, his left out in an awkward position. Let's just say Great performance by Manny Pacquiao. Excellent career. The choice is his. Right? Lennox Lewis fought. Vitaly Klitschko certainly could have continued fighting. Walked away from the sport. Has his health. Is a VIP in the sport. When we remember Lennox, we don't remember subsequent chapters of a career. In other words, there's no Roy Jones, Enzo Maccarinelli fight late in Lennox Lewis's career. There's no Rocky Marciano, Joe Louis postscript to his career. Right? Anyway, that's how I see it. Let me hear from you. Leave your comments for me here online. Visit us at gamblersadvisory.com. Thanks for stopping by.